the June 18th, 2025 meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission being held at Don B. Griffin Room at Harwich Town Hall. This meeting is being held in hybrid fashion. Attendance is possible in person or online. For instructions to log in to the GoToMeeting session, you can find our agenda on the Town of Harwich website. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda tonight is discussion and possible vote for support of the town's draft revision to the open space and recreation plan. Want to kick this off, Amy?
I'd be glad to. I'll give you a little background. So over the past about 2 years, the town, various department heads in the town planner, myself, recreation department head, Harwich Conservation Trust, one or two citizens of the town, and worked with Ty and Bond to essentially rewrite our open space and recreation plan for the town. The last revision was 2014, 2015, and that was really just a minor revision, so the document really hadn't been looked at and revised in 15 to 20 years. Priorities for the town in regards to open space and recreation have changed in that time. So it ended up being a pretty huge rewrite. You'll also notice in the plan that, we had to update all of the town-owned lands, which changed considerably since that time. And to a certain extent, priorities seem to have changed. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, the big goal was to acquire as much land as we possibly could for conservation and to bolster our recreation. Now, since then, the town, the trust, we've acquired a lot of land. And now it's changed. We're still wanting to acquire key pieces of land, especially that are connected to conservation lands. However, the focus is going more towards how we manage those pieces of land now that we have them. So looking for, I know we got it to you kind of late in the game. Turns out you do not have to vote on this tonight. We would encourage you to take the next 2 weeks to further review it. We did find a few errors and just things that could be made clearer. John, thank you for what you sent. Please add on to it. So I think in light of the fact that you haven't had as much time to review it as we would like as well, we want to put this on July 2nd. But if you have any preliminary thoughts or questions, now's a good time too.
My only question would be, if they want emphasis on management, are they gonna be willing to cough up the money? Does it cost money to manage things?
This is so hopefully, this planning document, if the select board, the conservation commission, other recreation commission can agree that this is how we want to move, it kind of lays the groundwork for us to appeal to the powers that be, to maybe, add more people or redirect certain things. This also is a key document when we apply for grants for land acquisition, specifically state land grants, which we're usually very fortunate in getting. If you don't have an active open space and recreation plan, you really can't, or you're not eligible for those funds, which usually pay you back up to $400,000 per acquisition. So that's pretty huge. Hello.
This is conservation.
Conservation, yes. So these plans like this kind of lay the groundwork to help us argue for what we need in the future.
So, other things from commission?
Not right now.
Other than even the following meeting from now to have it back on the agenda for discussion. I mean, we won't talk about it more, but I don't think that really gives us, all of us, enough time to take a hard look at it and maybe have more important points to discuss. It's a pretty big document.
Okay. I just want to mention the things that I sent to you.
Yep.
I guess what I said to you was I perused the document.
Yes.
Which ended up me going from the back forward, which is, a lot of the, like 2/3 of the document is visual material,
Right.
actually. But anyway, there was a map there which identified, which said it was an integrated list of waters, water body AU category map, but with no explanation of what that meant. And including all the freshwater ponds there were not labeled
Yeah.
as being on that list. I don't know what that means, so that needs to be clarified. I had some questions about the golf course. One is, there's a list of municipal facilities in there
Yeah.
for recreation,
Yeah.
and the golf course, golf or the golf course is not on
I
that
don't know
list,
why
which
that's the
seems
case.
sort of strange to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll talk to
And there was
Christina
one
about
piece
it.
of land that I had a question about, but that's kind of beside the point. There was one
You
last.
questioned about a piece on John Joseph, and I
Yeah.
responded, so that piece is part of the Cranberry Valley kind of Valley Golf Course
Even though it's
conglomeration.
across 39? Right, okay. Oh,
But
and
yes, I
So,
think it was part of the purchase.
sort of a bigger concern that I mentioned was,
Mm.
well, there's discussion in there about planting more native species. I didn't see anything, and maybe that's just because I was only thumbing through the document, but I didn't see anything anywhere about eliminating invasives, and we have huge problems with
Yep.
invasive in
Right.
town. I would really like to see that having some kind of priority in a list of land management. I mean, there are stands of Japanese knotweed all over the place,
Mhm.
and of course Phragmites. Anyway, that's what I had.
Sorry, just writing down.
I don't have anything else. Anybody in the room have anything to say about the draft open space and recreation plan? This hasn't been exposed to the public in any other way other than,
It's been on it's on the town website, and there was a survey. We got 450 responses to the survey that we did, which is pretty good, actually. And it's been presented at various other committees as a draft, or is being, so it's public.
What's the next step for it, Neil?
So, getting, hopefully, support of the general document from various committees, and we need to send it to the state for approval. I mean, the planning director, is sending the draft document off to the state for
So when-
ratification, essentially.
When that takes place, what exactly happens there? What branch grabs it and what do they do?
The Department of Conservation Services.
Okay.
They essentially ratify it, and then it becomes an official town document.
Okay.
And that way, when we do apply, especially, it's really used for grants, and it is used as a guideline, for how the town wants to move. We have these priorities, so after it gets ratified, the next step is the committee, you as well, talk about how we're gonna accomplish those things.
Okay.
And it's a 10-year plan, so it's not like we have to do it all in 2026.
so we will revisit on
Yep.
July 2nd, and hopefully people have had time to look.
Yeah.
And will we have more time after that if we people still,
I think especially for like really minor things, yes. We're hoping to get your general support of the document. It's already been late the document's already like a year late, later than it should have been with staff, new staff and changes and just a lot of moving. And the fact that it's pretty much a rewrite, that took a lot longer than we had anticipated, so. We are hoping to get it ratified this summer.
What establishes that timeline of being a year late? From whose perspective is that? Is there something else that's driving this?
The
'Cause
previous
I'm not-
plan only had a technical time frame. Yes, there is a
Okay.
time frame.
Okay,
So that has expired, which means applying for, we don't have an active current open space and rec plan, so if we were to go for funding, it could be grounds for dismissal.
thank you.
okay, anything else? Okay, so we're not voting or taking any action tonight, so we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 19 Waquasit Road, map M5, parcel K1-41, SE 032-2596 for bank restoration and dock alteration. This has been continued from May 7.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the owners and Lindsay Strode, who is the project proponent, and doing some of the work with permitting here. It has been a little bit of a time since we've looked at this. I think April 16th was when we had a substantive, and then we continued after that. Lindsay and I met out on the site. We adjusted the stakes seaward. We had put them up on a higher marsh. The intent of this, it's a two-part, just to refresh your memory. We're shrinking the float a little bit back, and no one really seemed to have much trouble with that. The harbor master was fine. There's plenty of water there, and it's a little bit longer. So just a little bit of a reconfiguration, but 2 feet shorter. The second part was, you can see the eroded portions of the salt marsh. What Lindsay has successfully done across the harbor here, and I believe next door also, where there was some undercutting from a channel dredging, it was collapsing the marsh a little bit. He brings in these coral logs, stakes them in, builds up the ground a little bit, and plants some salt marsh, and it helps the salt marsh infills these eroded pockets. So we're not going down here where it's fairly healthy, but in the areas where it's pocketed near the pier, another pocket there, another pocket there, and then it's a little bit barren right where the neighbors has a little bit of end effects from their wall there. We're kind of going to infill that and bolster that a little bit. The DEP was just kind of checking in. We had some misstatements about a coastal bank. This is not an eroding coastal bank. The house does, I believe, predate the act, but they were a little bit concerned that it might be a coastal engineering structure. Again, I sent a detailed email to Jacqueline a couple months ago, and I didn't hear back, but pointed out that these are really just bioengineered, fabric logs. It's not a real structure. In their own documentation, and the coastal design manual talks about bioengineering as a good alternative to structures. And so I think with successful in that argument that we can do this. And again, as proven, and you can see also the older plans. The marsh was quite a ways further out, and it's retreated over the years. So I think the spirit and intent is very good to try and bolster that salt marsh and keep it from eroding. This will also provide a little bit of a higher platform to allow the marsh to advance landward as the sea level gradually rises. It's an inch every decade, maybe an inch and a half every decade. So it's important to give that a platform to not collapse into the water, but to build up further. So I think it's a reasonable project. It's been successful. We did hand in a little narrative, which was Lindsay's annual reporting and monitoring. which also I believe Fish and Wildlife was interested in, because it's a little bit different than what they usually see for salt marsh restoration. But again, it's hard to argue with success. He's been doing well with a couple of little projects in this very harbor, and we think it's a good project, and glad to bring it forward. Be glad to answer any questions if you do have them.
Thank you. Amy?
Nothing too much. I'm a lot more ready to recommend approval, with showing the logs at mean low water instead of kind of in the marsh.
Yeah, it makes more sense now.
Yes, yes. So, I do think, 100% of the materials that he's proposing to use are biodegradable natural materials, so I don't view this as a coastal engineering structure. And you're correct, the property to the north of here and this property, as a result of years ago, an over dredge happening, or dredge occurring for the channel, not this property, but the general channel of Oyster Creek, likely came too close to the edge of salt marsh on this side of the creek, and contributed to the slumping of the salt marsh here. These are, it's pretty benign in terms of the insulation. He's using oak stakes. They're not even using duckbill anchors, so nothing hard. And I think the protection, salt marshes are one of our resources that we look to protect and enhance as much as we possibly can. So I would recommend approval of this, and also the reconfiguration a little bit of the float.
Thank you. Mark?
Makes sense to me.
Sophia?
No questions?
No questions from me.
I have no questions. Anybody else? Anyone in the room? Hearing nothing, we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the plan for 19 Quasset Road, map M5, parcel K1-41, SE number 032-2596.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you.
Appreciate your time and careful consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Amy.
Next, we have a notice of intent for 11 Riverbend Road, map 1, parcel G1-9 for house demolition and rebuilding, septic system installation, bulkhead repairs, and replacement and mitigation plantings. This has been continued from June 4th. The applicant has requested a further continuance to July 2nd. Any discussion about this?
No.
I move that we continue this item to July 2nd, 2025.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0.
Mr. Chair, may I ask that since we have Victoria Wiseman here, that we take her item out of order for certificate of compliance for 19 Walther Road?
Okay, let's take that. Next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 19 Walther Road, map 9, parcel A4-0, SE 032-2570 for reconstruction and improvement of stone revetment.
So the project has been completed. We did receive an as-built site plan for it. They've done the beach nourishment. They've installed their benchmarks. The only thing that Ms. Wiseman and I are working on is making sure that some stone that had been put at the top of the coastal bank for a path gets removed.
I have a picture. I worked all day on it.
If that's okay with you, Mr. Chair. We will inspect,
Certainly.
but, yeah.
Do you want me to show you the picture?
Sure. Pretty informal tonight, there's nobody here.
I'm sorry.
No,
I don't
you're
know
good.
how it works. So I just took that, so it's now sand and.
Great.
There's still some, I'm gonna remove more tomorrow.
Great.
But I put it, whatever, there's a pile that I'll move it.
There was a little bit of miscommunication on what a path to the top of Coastal Bank could be made of. So, she's actively working with us to fix that. So I would recommend the certificate of compliance, and it'll have ongoing conditions such as beach elevation monitoring, sand nourishment as needed based on that, such and such. I would say, I would recommend approval of the certificate of compliance, but we wouldn't release it until, and like hand it to you until I had a chance, maybe hopefully early next week, to inspect to make sure that path is all set.
Okay. Discussion, Wayne,
No, I'm all set with it.
Vivian, Mark?
Good.
Sophia? I have nothing, sounds reasonable to me.
Can I ask a question? For the sand marks, we work together, Amy, like I send you a picture every December or something? The sand
Yeah, I
mark-
can't remember, I gotta look
We
at
had
the
we made an agreement that, if it gets below the, whatever you call them.
The
mark-
benchmark,
The
yeah.
benchmark, then I have to replenish, but otherwise not. So every December, I send you a picture?
Let me just see what type of monitoring, if it can be you, if it has to be, yeah, it doesn't say it has to be your contractor, so you could, so you do, those will be ongoing conditions, and
Like every year, right?
amount of, yep, so benchmarks be exposed, the beach needs to be renourished, reestablish the elevation at that time. I would probably wait to do it, unless this doesn't say, normally we would say, when to check them. I would say end of February, early March even,
Oh, okay.
because we do tend
Winter
to see
storms.
beach loss in the winter storms. And that would still give you the time in the early spring to renourish, after
We-
that.
Because we'd have to renourish before the plover
Yeah.
deadline.
So, end of February-ish.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so just whatever, we'll go back and forth and talk about it. And so
Abs- yep.
you want me to send you an email and tell you that I've finished my?
Please do. I won't be.
It should be tomorrow, the next day, that it'll be
Yeah.
finished.
I wouldn't be able to come out until Friday.
Yes.
Or until next week, sorry.
Next
because
week is better
Friday, I'm
For my
at a
back.
hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be next week, so just email me.
Okay.
But the commission needs to officially vote. though.
Sorry.
So we could have a motion.
I'll move for approval of the certificate of compliance for 19 Walther Road, project SEO 32-2570, with the release of the certificate of compliance upon the agent's level of comfort.
Second?
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, all set, thank you.
Great, thanks so much.
You,
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Amy.
you're welcome.
Okay, next we have 2 orders of conditions, starting with 10 Harwich Pine, map 103, parcel S1A-11, for timber step removal and stone step reconstruction, vegetation management, and landscaping. Do we need a few minutes?
Nope, I'm all set.
Billy drafted these and did a lovely job.
Great. Can I borrow your pen, Viv? This time I came without it. Thank you. It's 10. entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 10 Harwich Pines, map 103, parcel S1A-11.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Next, we have order of conditions for 54 Main Street Extension, map 55, parcel E1-2, for after-the-fact lot clear cutting and proposed restoration plan.
Just so you know, the owner was able to acquire some of the required plantings. So I told him he could start planting. He's gonna do some now and probably some in the fall because it's getting warm.
So he's putting down seed mix
Yeah.
now?
Seed mix, and I think it's about 2 weeks, right after this meeting, when I got back, he asked if, he was able to acquire some of the stuff. And I said, you could try, but it's gotta live.
Did we get an amended plan for this?
Did you ask for one?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I was
I
looking
think
at.
there was supposed to be an amended plan, it was supposed to show the location of the boulders that were gonna be placed and
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
some of the other pertinent details.
I don't know. I can check with Lily on that. And I certainly could not release this until we approved that.
I think that would be appropriate myself.
And if you also, yeah, so technically you should vote on the order of conditions just because of timing, but I'll make a note if you trust Lily and I to, check on the plan showing location of boulders. We will do that.
Would that affect number 10 on the special conditions? Wasn't it like, it was either a split rail fence or boulders?
Right. It was gonna be at the 50-foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good catch.
I think, I'm looking at the notes from last time. We wanted another plan, but Mr. Croto wanted a decision at the meeting. So I'm looking at,
Oh. Yeah, and that should be 50. I don't know why we said, sorry about that.
Yeah, everything is supposed to be blocked off at 50 feet,
Yeah,
so it remains a no disturb zone.
Planting areas are become natural, a split rail fence. I was not there and I didn't listen to the meeting. Did you say either or?
no,
Or you just said split rail?
No.
You specified boulders.
stones.
You
stone.
wanted boulders, okay. So that would be changed. So change to boulders. And it shall be, boulders shall be installed along that boundary, not may.
Right.
And the spacing was approximately 4 feet apart.
Minimum of like what we call two-man stones at minimum. 4 feet apart along,
How big is a two-man stone?
Not very big.
it's not
Pretty small.
yet heavy. You want bigger?
You
Do you want to specify a diameter?
Probably 24 inches,
How much?
24 inches?
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 feet, That'll keep people from moving around.
18 to
24.
Well,
Bobcat don't care.
Well, you can't
it's
use
not
it
gonna be me moving it.
or
Oh,
unless we
thank
change.
you.
On the way in, you can, because you're still gonna take that hardening and stuff out of there. So
Okay.
I think he's gonna be committed to,
Maybe we can change number 9 then, because it says use of heavy machinery not
Oh.
permitted except for the removal of structures. Can we say?
We can say, and the placement of boulders.
yeah, I would agree with that. That makes sense.
And placement of boulders. Great.
So I'll move that we approve this order of conditions with the modifications just discussed, and to be not released without a revised site plan.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. So we, let's see, we have one more thing. Request for a certificate of compliance for 587 Pleasant Lake Ave, map 110, parcel C1-93, SE 032-2535, for creation of an on-grade path of water pruning to create a view corridor and a small landing near the pond, which is Hinckley's, right?
No, it's
Oh.
Black Pond,
It's,
Black Pond,
oh, it's the other.
on the other side.
That's with that name. I kid, place where Gertrude Collins was, but now I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically on the
Okay,
Brewster
I was-
Harwich line.
Yeah.
All right.
So, pretty straightforward project, and they did a nice job with it. They snaked a, 3 or 4 foot wide path through essentially what was all sweet pepper bush and underneath the trees, so they could actually access the pond again, which they hadn't been able to really do. And within that approved vista window, they lowered some of the sweet pepper bush and then pruned some lower limbs off the trees to get a view through. And then they have just a tiny area for a bench, like a 2-person bench at the very edge, which you allowed them to do, so. But you approve the cert of compliance, and we know the conditions now, so they'll be able to maintain that going forward.
Okay. Questions, comments? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move for approval of certificate of compliance for 587 Pleasant Lake Avenue, project SE 032-2535.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Minutes.
Of 6-4. You got some edits?
Yeah, tiny nitpicky ones, as usual.
For minutes,
Uh-huh.
I do too.
What do you got?
I just,
I'll add them to Viv's.
okay. For the
Okay.
54 Main Street extension,
Yeah, 1 second. What page is that on?
7, I guess, the very end of that.
Okay.
I was in favor of reducing the fine. I just wanted to reflect that, even though I did vote to fine them.
Sorry.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I was in favor of reducing the fine. It
Oh,
says
right.
everybody agreed not to,
Memo to assess.
on principle, nitpicky.
So it's
Where
on
do you
page 7.
Sure.
Okay.
Up at the top,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is, yep, Pilling.
You, does that mean I should add myself when I was trying to get a reduction? Does it matter?
I don't know, it bothered me. I
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, if there's something here that you didn't, that's not accurate, please let us know.
Well, it made it sound like there was no, like we were just all unanimously
Exactly.
in agreement that
Yeah.
the full fine should have been applied, and I think there was a little bit of debate.
There
I,
was
that
some
what you-
discussion about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
even though I voted yes, I was in
Yep.
favor of not doing the whole fine, so.
Yep. Got it.
And I was too. So I guess I'll jump on the bandwagon and for the record,
And Viv. But, yeah, okay.
you know.
Okay.
Good catch.
Anything else?
Move for approval of the minutes of June 4th, 2025.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Well,
Sorry, who moved? And who seconded?
I did.
Mark and Viv. 5-0. All right, that is all we have on the official agenda. Does anybody have any things they would like to talk about?
I have just a quick follow-up, just to make sure we talk about this before winter rolls around again.
ooh,
The old salt road conversation. Road salt.
Oh, yes, thank you. We can certainly, do you want to have the DPW director in here?
That'd be great.
So I will look for a lightish, agenda in the next month or two and see if you can come.
Sounds great.
Herring Run, I don't know if I mentioned this before or not. They did put the fence up and whatnot on that
Mhm.
walkway. It looks good. They did a good job. So,
Finally, we did it.
yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
do we know what the herring count
I haven't
is?
been
or-
down there for a minute.
Yeah.
But it's posted right there.
Oh, it is? Oh.
Yep, so there's the count at the Depot Street entrance. There's the counter there, and they update it each day. This time of year, they're probably not doing daily,
No,
but,
It's done, right? Is
yeah,
it?
and they've spawned,
Yeah.
So that's probably pretty close to the final count.
One
You can
thing,
just email Stephanie, too.
when I was up there the last time, I noticed that we might want to think about putting even a single rail fence across the front of that bulkhead where the two flumes drop off.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if somebody could very easy, just walk off, shoom, right in the water. There's nothing there to stop them. The fence you got there now with just the one single rail would
Yeah.
be perfect for that.
I've been thinking about that because it is, I feel, an accident waiting to happen. I know,
absolutely.
like, certain people aren't gonna want it, but that's too bad, because you literally could just,
Oh, easily, yeah.
knock on wood, we haven't had any issues,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
You only take, 40 feet of it or something. It's not
Yeah,
very long.
what if a kid just was
Mm.
running
Oh, yeah,
like crazy and
absolutely.
just ran right off it? Yeah, fence that overlook.
Any recent algae blooms? I haven't heard anything.
Yes. Today, at this afternoon, fence that overlook, hold on one second, at Bell's Neck. We got word and photo, of a bloom at Bucks Pond in Great Sand Lakes today. APCC had tested, but they test usually at the Paradise Path entrance, which is the northeast area of the pond, because that's normally, if it's windblown, where we see it below too. This was at the west end of the pond, right where the spit between John Joseph and Bucks Pond is. And it was pretty gnarly. I sampled it. We also looked at Clearwater Beach. And Clearwater Beach and Paradise Path Beach were fine, but it was pretty scummy over at the west end, and so we sampled it. To me, it appears to be both microcystis and dolichospermum, which microcystis is a moderately toxic cyanobacteria, which is concerning, 'cause there's a lot of it. And then the other one is mildly toxic. So we notified the association and put up caution signs at various the more public access points, but asked the association to notify their folks, because there's hundreds of homes in that association. And even when I was there, I recommended to a few people to get out of the water. But even between the time when I sampled, came back to town hall to look at the sample under the scope, make the signs and go back out, the bloom had shifted, I think a little bit more north. So it's very wind-driven, so we decided to put advisories at all of the major areas. And I'm gonna have APCC confirm what I saw. We gave them the sample. And if we start seeing it more widespread across the pond, we'll probably go to a closure.
So the wind has been out of the east. It was blowing out of the east yesterday,
Which would be consistent with where we saw it today,
right.
on the west.
So maybe it
The
was
wind's
shifting around.
shifted.
so-
Yeah. Yep. And I didn't see, we took samples at Clearwater Beach on the south side. There's nothing there. It was very clean. So the people who were in the water there, I said, you know, it appears to be fine now, but keep an eye out if you see this. And then, yeah, it can move. It wasn't just along the shoreline either. On the west side, it was, if you looked out and you could see into the water column, it was pretty far out too, in the column. So I think I think it's at the beginning of whatever it's doing.
That's
That's
pretty
not it.
shallow right in there, that whole area, isn't it?
So do you think that we're seeing more of this now because people are just more alert to it? Or do you think it's actually happening more?
I think it's both. I definitely think people are more educated about it and noticing it. But I also think we're seeing, in general, we're seeing more of it. You know, we've been monitoring the ponds for cyanobacteria for years at least, and this is, it just seems to increase. Yeah. Nutrient loading needs to stop. But, so, I think there's a certain degree that more people are aware and looking for it and reporting it, but I do think we're generally seeing more of it,
Is it a genuine health hazard?
yes.
What does it cause in the human body?
So children, babies, and dogs are most susceptible because of their lower body mass. It killed a dog at Cliff Pond in Brewster a few years back.
Really?
So they have various effects depending on which ones they are. And I should say there's like 300 or 400 different types of freshwater algae. There's only a handful that are toxic. I don't know the other 300 something or other. I just know the few that are toxic under a scope. And some are neurotoxins, and that's the most severe, and that is one of the types that we saw in the pond today in
Really?
large numbers, microcystis. Then most of them will cause gastrointestinal disruption. And a misconception people have is that you have to swallow it. It can absorb through your skin. And also particularly with dogs, because what does a dog do after it jumps in the water and comes out? It licks its coat, and it's on its coat.
Yeah.
So that's why dogs in particular are susceptible, because they can get a high concentration of it. So there's even some research, not conclusive yet, that when a bloom, basically when the cells open and release the toxin that's in the cells, that if it's on a floating mat on the surface, it can be aerosolized. But there's not a lot of information on that yet.
Is it harmful to the fish and turtles and things?
We don't, what's harmful for them is usually when accompanying an algae bloom, that usually means, so there's a lot of plants in the water. Those plants take up the oxygen that the other wildlife need.
I got you.
So we may see, especially, we see, like catfish or something, die off in some like full pond blooms, because there's just not a lot of oxygen at that bottom layer anymore. We haven't had a fish kill in a few years.
Now, is algae considered a plant?
Mm-hmm.
It is, okay. Interesting.
But it's when there's, too much of it,
Right,
just like other invasives,
sure.
that it's a problem. But this time it's a real health problem.
There was a big fish kill on Skinnequit Pond,
Yeah.
like, more than 25 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Late 90s, I think
Yeah.
it was, that everything died. It's not just fish.
The sails, the clams, everything.
There's still no There's still no freshwater mussels
Really?
in the pond. There had been before, and the frogs all went away. I mean, it was really, and I don't know whether it was because of oxygen depletion or whether it was the toxins themselves,
Who
but,
knows? I know, in my time here, we had a minor fish kill of, bullheads, catfish in Hinckley. Before we, yeah, I mean, yeah. Hinckley's an ongoing thing where we're still trying to find some, Hinckley is, even though we treated it in 2019, is showing some real signs of being in distress, so, as you know, so we're still trying to get another baseline study of what's going on out there.
I think this is a relatively shallow pond, it may have something to do with
That's
it.
part of it. Tend to not see as much of this in deeper water ponds,
Mm.
but that's not the case everywhere. I think Cliff Pond in Brewster's pretty darn deep, actually, and
Yeah.
we have,
They have it there too?
almost every single year, they have closures,
Oh,
which is interesting, because there's no houses immediately around Cliff Pond,
yeah.
so. Trying to think of anything else?
I don't have anything.
We did lose a lot of our plover nests, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago in, a southern storm that we had with high tides. They were a few days shy of hatching, and we lost the vast majority of the nests.
Really?
We have, if you wanna see them, at Bank Street, between Bank and Merkel, about halfway down, there's 4 cute little fluff balls running around.
Do you
They
know
made it.
Do you know what's going on at the end of, on the other side at Allen Harbour? So if you went down Brooks Road and took a left and went all the way down to the end, there's like stuff staked out there in the sand near
So
the.
that could be if it's white
Yeah, yeah,
stakes and
Yeah.
twine,
yeah. What
then it
that?
is likely Mass Audubon, so it's probably plovers, or
Okay.
terns, it could be terns
Okay.
too. I haven't been down there, they monitor that.
Yeah, it's brand new in the last couple of days.
It could be, and because I haven't seen, I told John, because John lives down by Red River, I haven't seen the 2 pairs that were nesting towards the east end of Red River that lost theirs. I haven't seen those adults. I mean, I saw them immediately after, so I know they lived,
Yeah,
the adults
yeah.
lived, but plovers will re-nest if it's early enough, and it still kind of is, so I'm wondering if they went to somewhere else to do
Okay.
it. But I think it's gonna be a lower year for numbers on the sound side of Cape Cod because of it, so. But still, overall, the population's doing really well.
okay.
We've got a couple of educational opportunities coming up for you, but I'll email you them, so I can give you all the information and the dates.
So you had been talking about having another nutrient
Yes.
thing with
Kristen?
Kristen, right? And
So we had tentatively actually scheduled this Friday, but before I could even make it known to anybody, she had to cancel. So she's still more than willing to do it. I'm wondering now if it would make more sense to do towards the end of August or something, because for
Yeah,
fall
may-
planting.
Mm.
I'm not, and I'm also just not sure if we were to do it in July, what kind, how big of an audience we would get.
Yeah.
She's more than happy to do it.
Well, I think we should definitely go ahead with it, and it's probably a little late at this point. People are busy with other things.
Yeah, I think
and-
end of August, early September would be a good target.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could find a time when we drew in a few people who are only in town in the summer,
Yeah.
although I think
Maybe, yeah,
maybe
maybe
the
late
end of
August.
August or something. I don't know how likely it is that we
we can try.
draw those people, but, yeah.
Well, if we did have a date, because I think they're gonna do a non-resident taxpayers meeting, I could at least have an announcement of
Yeah.
You think
that
that's
meeting
late?
at that.
Oh, that'll be soon.
I think that's gonna be in July.
I see, okay.
All right, I guess, huh? I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting of June 18th, 2025 of the Harwich Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, aye,
Aye.
aye.
Hey.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Wow, it's not